How do you handle conflict in recovery? How do you handle conflict in a healthy way? This is a good question. How do you handle conflict in recovery? So first off, what I will say is that I avoid conflict, and I think about and this is this is something that I've been talking with my therapist about as of recently, the last couple of sessions I've had with him, because I avoid conflict. And so how do I avoid conflict? Well, and I avoid conflict in every area of my life. And being a man in recovery, I'm doing the next right thing. I'm honest, and I'm not lying, cheating, or stealing. I don't like making amends. But I also have potential conflict. And so I don't want to lie. I don't want to cheat. I don't want to be dishonest. But my MO is to be vague. And just kind of and this is with my family members, with my dad, with my with my staff members, with my team members, with my business partners. I will also say that there's a guy named Dave Kekich. He has the Kekich Crudos, which I've got this from Joe Polish. He says one of his Kekich Crudos is, life is easy if you live it the hard way, and hard if you live it the easy way. And what I've learned is that life is a lot easier if I have the courage to have hard conversations. And so I can remember I was in a relationship with a woman. This is an ex. This is many years ago. And I just remember, actually, it was March 6th, 2020. I remember that because it was a couple days before COVID. I remember we had gone and we'd seen a couples therapist a couple of times. And then I was like, gosh, this relationship isn't going to work. And what I've done in my past, in my previous relationships, pre-sobriety, I've been really good since I've been in sobriety. And what I mean is, before I got clean and sober, if I was ready to not be in a relationship anymore, I'd turn into an asshole. I would cheat. I would lie. I would make it to where they would break up with me because I was just such an asshole. And so I don't do that anymore. What I do now is I actually have the conversation. I'm honest. I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to hold myself together because I want to feel good. I want to end a relationship on a positive note, as positive as, in as positive a way as possible, so that we can go our separate ways. And so I remember 2020, I was in a relationship, and I remember I just was like, man, this isn't going to work. This is not working. And it had been several months where I realized it was probably 6 months. Maybe it was a year. Maybe it was longer than that. I was in this relationship for 3 years. And then I finally, one day, I was like, this is just not going to work. And I had the conversation with her, and I said, this is not, I don't remember exactly what I said, but basically it was, this is not going to work. I think we should go our separate ways. And I remember March 6th, that was March 6th, 2020. And then I went from March 8th to the 13th of 2020, I went to the UK, and that was when COVID hit the world. And then I came back, I flew back on March 13th. I know I came back on March 13th because I was doing a sober companion deal with a guy who had to extend his visa or something like that. So I went with him to the UK. He had family in the UK. We did that. And then we flew back on March 13th. And I remember we flew back because I had a triathlon scheduled for March 15th, 2020. And of course, that was the first weekend that all of the events were canceled. And yeah, that was a big deal. And so, I've been in and out of a couple of other relationships. And again, the conversation, I think I've actually learned how to really have this conversation. And my hard conversation typically starts with gratitude. I'm so grateful for the time that we've had together. I've learned so much, and I feel like it would be best for us to go our separate ways. I've used that same type of conversation in many different contexts, but it's the best way in my experience. For me, it's just an easy way to uh, end a relationship, terminate a relationship, whatever you want to call it, break up, because it's because I truly am. I truly am. I'm grateful, and I'm never angry. Although I do have times where I go through anger, sadness, pain, if when ending a relationship, and it doesn't matter. It can be friendship, it can be business, um, it can be a personal relationship, a significant other. So that's what I found. So that's my way of handling conflict. And then also with conflict, I've just learned to pause when agitated or doubtful. That serves me really well. If I feel like I need to respond, if I feel like I need to react, if I feel like I need to say something nasty, which I feel like I need to say something nasty many times, and a lot of times I think I'm right. so so what I've learned to do is I've learned to just play the tape forward, think about it. Okay, how is this going to land? And on the other side of that, what does it look like? And I never want to burn bridges. I've burned lots of bridges on my path in my journey, and it's never good. Like, it never works out. There's always always it comes back to bite me. And actually, I had an experience. So about 20 years ago, I I got fired. Actually, I was the 30% owner of a business. I got fired due to my drinking and drug use. And there were four main general, I don't know if I'm sharing too much, or if this is confusing. If this is confusing, my apologies. Okay, so I got fired, but I was 30% owner. There were four main general partners, and then there was one guy who was going to be the operator of the division. I owned a division of a company. It was in Northern California. Four main partners who owned the entire country. And then there was one owner or operator who was going to take my place. They fired me, and I was going to get paid. And I got fired due to my drinking and drug use. Like, I was a huge liability. So I deserved to get fired, even though at that time I didn't. I wasn't ready to get clean and sober. I wasn't ready to take responsibility for my actions. I wasn't ready to, I just wasn't ready yet. I wasn't ready yet. I still had a lot of drinking and drugging to do. And so we went our separate ways, the best that we could. But then it ended up being, it turned into a mess. And without getting into the details, I don't know if I would say I didn't lie, cheat, or steal, but I was I was a little bit shady in the way that I went my separate ways. I was kind of like, screw you guys, even though it was my fault and I deserved to be fired. Screw you guys. And I ended up burning those bridges is what happened. And up until about a month ago, it was really interesting. About a month ago, so the guy that was the owner operator, I haven't seen him in about 20 years. I haven't talked to him in about 20 years. When I got sober, I made amends with him just for my behavior, but it wasn't really like a solid like amends to where I really fully took responsibility, and we were good. We weren't good. I made my amends, and maybe it was good enough, but he didn't want anything. And then I made my amends to the four guys, just due to my, I made amends for my behavior, for my alcoholic behavior, for my lying, cheating, and stealing, because I was a huge liability, because of all the things that I did that put all of them in harm's way. But I never really made the amends was not solid enough to where, maybe it was, I don't know. But what I'm talking about is burning bridges. And so up until about a month ago, I saw the owner operator. I hadn't seen him in 20 years. I had always thought back, like, if things happen again, I would do the same thing that I did. And basically, without getting into it, I wanted to get paid. And so I accelerated the note. And I had the right to accelerate the note. They didn't like it. And it really caused problems. And because I accelerated the note, because I wanted to get paid early, they made a mistake, and I basically had no grace. And I just accelerated the note because I wanted to get paid. And the result of that is that I burned those bridges with all 5 people. And so now, hindsight being 2020, I don't know, was it worth it? I mean, like, yeah, I did. I didn't lie. I didn't cheat. I didn't steal. I mean, maybe I was. I had no grace, and I followed. I followed everything that was written in the contract. So I didn't do anything wrong, but I burned bridges. And because I burned bridges, I burned any potential that I was going to have a relationship with any of those 5 people. And I don't know, maybe something could have come of that. I mean, I don't, I'm not going to look back and beat myself up, but for the very first time, I realized, like, man, I don't know if I would have done that again, because burning bridges is never a good thing. And so, yeah, there's that. So how do I handle conflict in recovery and in a healthy way? You know what? Fall on the sword, and just walk through it. Have courage to have the hard conversation, play the tape forward, and just know that talking about, because if you're not talking about things, if you've got something on your mind that you need to talk about and you don't talk about it, it's going to be a problem. It's going to end up being a problem. And I can have, there was another thing that happened. So again, talking to my therapist about being vague, I had in my session with him, I was talking about a person that I have a relationship with, and I had thought disorder written on my notes. And so that came up in my conversation. Basically, I ended up not at first when she said, "Well, what did that refer to, the thought disorder?" And at first, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it because I avoid conflict. And because I avoid conflict and I don't want to talk about it, I said some bullshit that basically brushed past it. We didn't really talk about it. But then I realized I had this feeling in my chest, and I knew that that was the perfect example of me being vague and not wanting to talk about things. And so I actually brought it up, and we talked about it. We really talked about it. We really dug into it. And on the other side, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I didn't have, because depression. I remember one of the therapists I used to see, her name was Karen Zazara. I remember the first time I ever really realized that I had depression, to press down. Depression to press down means that I'm not talking about the things that I should talk about. Pressing down. And one of the reasons I do that is because I want to avoid conflict. So conflict is a big deal. So hopefully I shared something that that helped you.